does remote work actually work is the series that we're looking at the moment, and how we're going to make it work if you're battling with it at the moment. But first, let's have a look at why we're considering remote work at all. Remote work is here to stay. The world changed completely in 2020, and this is one change that just isn't getting rolled back. We did go deeper into this in our webinar with App Advisory Plus. The link is below this video, and I think it's actually in our YouTube channel as well, a copy of that webinar. But the fact of the matter is that if you run an accounting firm in the present world, you need to make a plan to offer remote working options. It could be because you want to hire top talent and that's the benefit that attracts them, or it could be that the skills shortage is forcing you to hire talent in another country, or maybe you are embracing remote for the cost-saving benefits because there are still some, but it is no longer becoming optional. However, like everything else in business, if you don't plan it ahead of implementing it, remote work can be a spectacular failure. We need to have 3 aspects accounted for before we start offering this benefit to our teams. So we need practical readiness, legal readiness, and productivity readiness. So in this video, we're going to go deeper into practical aspects, and we're going to start with software. When it comes to remote working, you basically have 2 options for your core setup. Oh, sorry, going backwards. Oh, here we go, remote service or cloud software. Before we look at each one, it is important to point out that we are talking about the core of your remote working setup. In other words, the backbone, the spine. It is literally the most important practical aspect to get set up correctly. Your core setup is going to determine the accounting software your remote worker uses. It determines which hardware you need to invest in. It determines how you're going to monitor work progress and performance. And it directly affects your data security, which affects both this practicality pillar we're busy with and the legal one as well. So please do not skip through this video and move on to the rest of the series. This is the important one to get right. You need to get this right before you move on. With that in mind, let's look at the pros and cons of having your own remote server setup. I always start with the positive. So, having a remote server provides you with familiarity. You can just keep on using all the software, processes, and systems that you are using right now. You don't have to implement something new. You just need the help of a good IT professional to help you set up the remote access. You also have complete control over your data and your backups. It involves a one-time only investment, and you don't have lots of monthly subscription fees. You do normally need some form of subscription for access, but not multiple for every single piece of software that you use. And a very, very high level of customization is possible. You can tailor a remote server setup to suit your existing processes 100%. However, everything has its negatives too. You might only have a one-time investment, but that investment is huge. You need to buy a lot of expensive hardware to set up a remote server setup. It is also difficult to scale because you're going to need to buy more expensive hardware every time you need to upgrade or add people, and you will need constant IT updates. You might be in control of your backups, but you are also responsible for them, adding to your admin headaches. And it is 100% on you to do all updates, backups, and security patches because the security relies on you, meaning you are extremely vulnerable if you don't know what you are doing and you aren't good at maintaining your cybersecurity setup. It is also very difficult to collaborate with clients because it is fairly complex to share access securely outside of your organization. And you run the risk of downtime when you have hardware failures or security breaches. Now, I know it looks like there's more cons than pros, but really all of this just means that a remote server is going to make sense for your firm if your firm prioritizes control over your data above everything else, and you have a very strong in-house IT or outsourced IT that you trust completely. And if you operate in areas with a strong and reliable internet connection and you trust your IT team, you can very successfully set up a remote server. Now let's look at cloud pros and cons. Cloud options are extremely easy to access, both for your staff and for your clients, which is a very big pro. Giving clients access to their own accounts is really, really easy. You also have an amazing ecosystem of apps that you can choose from that enables you to build your own tech stack that does exactly what you need it to do in your business. And the benefits of that and integrated automation of all of these different apps cannot be overstated. It is a huge plus. The software provider does automatic updates and backups for you, and they generally have enhanced security features as well, which you don't have to pay extra for and are probably better than the ones you can afford for your firm anyway. Cloud solutions are exceptionally scalable. You don't have to buy more equipment in order to add more users or accounts. You just add them. And you have much lower upfront costs, in fact, normally no upfront costs, and your monthly costs are predictable. They're subscription-based, they're the same every single month. However, you do have ongoing subscription costs, and they can end up adding up to a fairly scary amount. When I opened my firm in 2007, I was 100% remote working, not because I was innovative and forward-thinking, but because I had no money and I couldn't afford an office. However, now in 2025, 19 years later, my monthly software subscriptions easily exceed what I would be paying for an office if I chose to be in one. So we have remained remote and digital because we prefer it, but it's not really the cost advantage that it was before. There are other cost advantages to cloud, but the subscriptions do add up to more than you expect. You are 100% and wholly dependent on your internet working. And so is your remote worker. So you've got to also pay attention to where they are working from. If you have a remote server and the internet goes down, your team can still come into the office. If you are 100% remote working like we are, a lack of internet can be extremely stressful. You do end up storing sensitive financial data on third-party servers, which can also be fairly stressful. However, I will say that if the third party created their software specifically for accountants, then they normally protect that data extremely well. They do understand that this is a big concern for us. And while ongoing month-to-month use of cloud software might be wonderful, the migration to the cloud can be somewhat of a headache. It is time-consuming and there is risk involved. So you want to do it slowly and carefully. However, with the introduction of MTD in the UK and with the myriad of new features in most cloud software, I personally feel that when you are comparing cloud software to remote service, cloud wins every time. It is, however, a matter of your preferences, your priorities, and what is going to work for your firm. So think it through, see what works for you, set up a backbone for your remote working before you start. That is the comparison for you of cloud versus your own remote service setup. Let me know in the comments which one you decide to go for.